Welcome. You're listening to the first episode of A Breath of Fresh Dating. I'm your host, Mandy, and on today's episode, the topic of discussion is the conception of dating. Now, don't forget to subscribe, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at A Breath of Fresh Dating. Although there are several interpretations of dating, the general conception is when two people show an interest in each other and spend time getting to know one another to assess their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual compatibility. Now, during this period, they spend time socializing through leisure, dinner dates, maybe travel. Well, travel may be a bit far-fetched, but you never know if you're both, feeling a bit spontaneous. Then why not? Feel free to incorporate travel within the first 3 months. I mean, you don't want to ruin the experience by going on holiday together and then you find out that, he doesn't put the seat back down when he uses the toilet, or she actually does fart now and again. If you do plan to go on vacation at such an early stage, you might pick up on a whole lot of pet peeves that may affect the possibility of going further. But you never know, each to their own. Other ways to marinate the experience of building a rapport are through interactions, so whether through calls, messages, and virtually such as video calls or social media. Talk about your interest. That way, you can have an idea of what you have in common. Sharing experiences about your day or life creates a closer bond, and sharing fun-related information is a good way to understand a person's sense of humor. Avoid texting too much. You don't want to end up in a text relationship, that's for sure. Men make several attempts to prove their worth during courtship by wooing the woman, who pulls out most of his cards, maybe not all, but just enough to assure the lady of his intentions. And if it's genuine, the next stage leads to exclusivity and commitment. That's the tradition of dating. But, emphasis on buts. As we all know, that is not usually the case. There are men who put their best foot forward with an act to deceive a woman for his own selfish reasons. And such instances only leaves one hurt and the other with karma. And it's usually the man that's, left with karma. There aren't enough alpha males in this generation. That's why courtship is slowly becoming superficial. If you pretend to be someone other than yourself in hope of gaining the attention of a woman or man, it only leaves a false sense of compatibility. You tend to fall for the act as opposed to who the person really is. Honesty is the best policy. So be transparent through your dating experience. A leopard can never change its spots. If you spend time pretending, your true nature will eventually reveal itself. If you believe in marriage, you should make this clear from day one. Both parties will need to assess their belief in the institution and understand that the goal is to be married, build a family together, and work towards living happily ever after. Marriage it's not for everyone. But then again, those who may want a relationship but not marriage can find a companion, a partner to spend the rest of their life with. And if you're one who would prefer companionship, then make it clear to the person of interest. One of the main issues we have in this new dating culture is communication. A lot of people are so scared to express themselves. And I believe that this digital age has reduced people's confidence. Now it seems people don't really know how to communicate in reality. Anyway, I digress. At the early stage of dating, it is like an interview process filled with 21 questions. This is where you assess your goals and aspirations. If they want kids, if they want to get married, ask about where they see themselves in the next 3 or 5 years. Find out how they were raised. It's good to know more about how one is raised. That way, you can tell if they were raised on survival or love. Find out about their core values and beliefs and have discussions on sexuality. Now, don't shy away from, having a discussion on sexuality, because no straight individual wants to end up getting married to someone only to get divorced 20 years down the line after finding out their partner is indeed gay. If you're gay or bisexual, own it with pride and be open about it with whoever you're interested in. Everyone has a right to embrace their sexuality, and if you have issues facing your truth and need someone to talk to, contact the mmeagency.com for a dating consultation or consult a certified therapist for help. In addition, find out about their love language. There are 5 love languages. Words of affirmation is when your partner uses words to encourage and assure you. Acts of service, doing things you know your partner will be pleased with. Receiving gifts relates to the thought of you. Quality time relates with attention and bonding through conversations. Physical touch. Now that involves hugs, kisses, sex, and, all that good stuff. For example, if you're with your husband or your boyfriend, play with his head, give him a massage, give him a back rub. These are all signs of, your love language. Having conversations about love languages creates a deeper understanding of how you both feel about a relationship and what you both value most when you're in one. I do wonder at times if men and women understand that there are several types of relationships, such as monogamous, polygamous, polyamorous, and friends with benefits. If so, there wouldn't be a lot of situationships out there. If you know you aren't one who can stay loyal to one partner, or you have insatiable desires, find someone who understands your preference and date accordingly. In my opinion, I think people who are aware they can't commit or force themselves into marriages do so based on peer or societal pressure. A lot of people may romanticize the idea of being in a polygamous or polyamorous relationship, but dare not dive in such realm for concern of what others may think of them if they do choose to. I read somewhere on social media where dating was categorized in 4 stages. Talking, where you do things on a friendship level and maybe even have sex. And then the dating stage is where you spend time together as friends but still allowed to talk to other people. Dating exclusively is when all focus on other people have been cut off to focus on getting to know one another. And then you have the relationship stage. A decision has been made to be in a relationship. What got me a bit perplexed is the dating exclusively stage. It shows how flawed dating is in this generation. Dating exclusively is a relationship. There's no such thing as dating exclusively and not seeing anyone else. Yet you both don't identify it as a relationship. The thing is, when you are in a relationship, you're still getting to know one another, regardless. So what's the point of avoiding the title of being in a relationship by diluting it with the term dating exclusively? As much as I appreciate the freedom we have today as women to own our dating and relationship experiences, I'm more concerned that millennial dating is being consumed by the hookup mentality, which may be caused by fear of being vulnerable to love, perhaps to avoid being hurt, and also options such as social media influence and online dating that offers a lot of quantity over quality. No man is an island and everyone wants to love and be loved, but it's hard to express your feelings when it's constantly thrown in your face. I can understand that. But we need to address the issue of dating in 2020 and make the joy and wholesomeness of relationships, marriage and love trend. Let's work together to change the narrative and maintain the tradition of the older generation, which involved courtship, respect, compassion, support and love. Embrace vulnerability and be open to the possibility of connecting in reality. In the old days, women didn't have the power to choose who to love. It was more a case of parents arranging marriages for sociological, political, or financial status. Women were unable to vocalize their interests, desires, and needs. I mean, between the 18 to 1900s, courtship was supervised by the elders. Men and women weren't permitted to be alone. So even if the woman wanted to succumb to having any form of affection or, get closer to a man and sort of warm up to him and nurture the idea of, committing to one another, there was no freedom to do so, unlike a millennial dating where women have the power to say no or yes. Women have control over dating and can consider getting to know a man if they choose to without any limitation. It must have felt so isolating for most women in the old days, not being able to vocalize their opinion and decision to date whomever they fancied. I usually advise most of my clients when dating and getting to know someone with the goal of building a long-term relationship to try not to dwell on looking for their type. Well, their typical type on paper. Because if their type were their type, they wouldn't be single. Sometimes you may see the red flags and, purposely avoid them because you focus on the potential and believe that things may change. Or that expectation becomes a project that will eventually lead to a breakup. I mean, I know how easy it is to focus on the physical aspects. And, chemistry involves, physicality anyway. But here's the thing. They may look good in pictures or in reality, but when beauty fades, what is left? Is there depth? Have you ever been in a situation where you're physically attracted to someone, but after a few days of getting to know them, all that fades and you realize you want nothing to do with them, perhaps because you realized how shallow they are or the fact you have nothing whatsoever in common? A red flag is a red flag, and this goes to both men and women. Accept it and give someone else who may be more deserving of you a chance. Dating should be fun, honest, and fulfilling. When dating, it's advisable to avoid sexual intimacy for a few months. If you seek mere fun, such as friends with benefits, that's fine, but date with intention and be open about what it is you seek. But if you want something more, focus on the self and character. Then you can meet the soul through sexual intimacy when the time is right. I know some of you may, not agree with holding off sex for a while, but it is true. Sex ruins the dating process. Don't get me wrong, there are people who had sex on the first date and are in committed relationships, but it's not usually the case. Men love the chase, and don't be deceived by men who try to convince you to give up the cookies so soon, promising you heaven on earth. If he's worthy, he'll be patient, and if he's not, he would move on swiftly. At least you'd save yourself from heartbreak. Women need to understand that we have the power and control. Perhaps if women weren't so easy, well, some women, if they weren't so easy, there would be more people in relationships. Because if you think about it, if a man is pursuing a woman and the woman plays hard to get, or she's not really forthcoming and giving him what he wants, he whiles away time with the next easiest woman that would give him what he wants, and then he hops from one woman to the next while he pursues the woman of interest. And if it takes longer, the more he has the opportunity to build something with that woman. Because let's be honest, when it comes to sex, men don't have sex with emotions. It's like, it's just another drive-by, really. So they can have sex with the easiest woman out there while they still pursue the woman of their dreams. Here's the thing, do your own research and ask any man this question, be it a friend or family. If they were interested in getting to know a woman for a long-term relationship and she ends up having sex on the first date or the first week, will they still consider a relationship with her? Send me your feedback. I'd love to read opinions. If you're dating with bad intentions, don't date at all. In fact, date yourself and bestow those negative intentions on yourself. Like, in a nutshell, date right and connect with someone who shares your values and is genuinely interested in establishing a real connection and commitment for a breath of fresh dating. That's all we have on this episode. If you have any questions, send a message or email abreathofreshdating@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe on anchor.fm/abreathofreshdating. Share it and follow us on Instagram @abreathofreshdating. And if you're a professional or entrepreneur who is single and searching, sign up with the MMAagency.com and get a chance to meet your match offline through a thorough, discreet, and confidential matchmaking process. See you on the next episode.